You have your George Floyd here, who was a victim of police brutality yesterday in Minneapolis due to a forced check at a grocery store. Believed he was taking care of business. The grocery store clerk felt like it was counterfeit and ended up calling the cops. And he was found intoxicated on top of a blue car. And that escalated into the fact that the police they say he was resisting arrest, which is wrong. And forced checks. I did research on that. If you have a forced check, you at least can go to the jail for like the county for like a year, go into holding, have a plea, and they can look into your case. And it's like a little low level offense. It's a petty crime. I mean, if that's exactly true, then I believe that yes, he should be accountable for his action. But due to this coronavirus, 19 type of pandemic that's going on, a lot of Americans are out of work. At least 20% of Americans are filed for unemployment, and you want to do everything you can to put food under the table. And so I did critical research here on George Floyd that he was a security guard. I want to say a bouncer at the bistro in Minneapolis, and he was from South Houston. I like how the news actually portrayed him. They put out positive images about him because usually the news media have a track history of just pointing out, oh, he's a thug. This is one of the reasons why he was a victim of deadly force, but he was a tight end, and he had some resemblance to Stephen Jackson, who was a retired NBA player. It kind of looked like him a little bit, had the same demeanor. But what's really interesting enough is that this young man here, he was 46 years of age. He witnessed the mother of his mom passing, and he ended up moving to Minneapolis to actually start a good life. And he had aspirations to get a CDL and be a truck driver, which is good. So I look at this as a hardworking man. Yes, he maybe had the short end of the stick, maybe due to the forced check, but if the grocery store clerk did not want to call, and they would have just easily declined it. They didn't really have to get the police involved in too much in that situation, because this led to mainly of his death. Now, what's really crazy is that they end up getting him down. Lee Chauvin and Child. It was like at least 4 officers, and two of them was on the standby. They was on the bystanders, and it was people was recording. And Chauvin had his knee on the back of his neck, was restricting his airway for several minutes, and to the point that his mouth was bleeding, nose was bleeding, and he said he couldn't breathe. He couldn't breathe. And this is really not a tactic in the police academy. They was actually told and taught that it would be a proper arm bar in a particular moment and put their knee on the shoulder blade. So therefore, he would actually give up, and then he would give his other arm, and they would have the ability to go ahead and arrest him. Until then, they escalated into a murder scene. All they had to do was arrest the young man here and pick him up and take him to the squad car into the county jail. That's all they had to do. But since they want to put on their superiority and say that, oh, you're not so tough now, if you actually pay attention to the words, that's just racial profiling, and that's just racial hate there. And it's really frustrating that you don't see African Americans going down there on the Minneapolis protestings, which they should, I believe, because at the same time, it's that it's what we need some answers. We getting sick and tired of this. Situations happening to us between the correlation of law enforcement, no political representation on this, and it's very sad that we have former President Obama, who signed the Blue Alert law, that actually gave law enforcement this ability to not to be indicted for low level offenses or utilizing deadly force. And when we see these things, I'll take a further critical examination of the Trayvon Martin case happened back in 2012. We have Tamar Rice. We had Eric Gardner. When Eric Gardner, he was selling Lucy's, I guess, cigarettes. He was trying to break up a fight, and it was a huge scene. And instead of just trying to calm him down, just arrest him, apprehend him, they ended up choking him out. And then the young man, he lost his life, and he said he can't breathe. And that's when they had a whole I Can't Breathe movement. And Black Lives Matter was heavily invested in that particular movement to actually provide for justice. And you have Reverend L. Sharpton, NAACP was involved, and it's just like motivated to the point that we need some type of representation, to the point that African Americans need to have some weight in the justice system, and we should not be falling to the victim of police brutality for low level offenses. It actually reminds me of too Sandra Bland for a broken tail light. I mean, it's just little certain things that when people get pulled over, black people get pulled over from law enforcement, you don't know if you even can cooperate. Like Philando Castile, you're getting shot or killed. I mean, even though people want to argue that his woman escalated, but at the same time, they're not utilizing the proper steps in order to successfully detain individuals that break the law on low-level offenses compared to other races of people. And so this is when you have riots and these frustrations that comes on the part here in American society, because we have all this anger that's installed in us that, hey, we need to release this. This something's is not right. It's 2020. Are we going back to the Jim Crow days? And it reminds me of that we as an American people have not gone too far. We haven't made any type of progression as far as like swayed and always creating division. And you got, even between economically, 70% of Americans living paycheck to paycheck. There's a lot of things that goes on that we need to address, but not into these political debates. They don't really address the police brutality and the correlation of black African Americans to law enforcement. Is a really sad thing. Even if people have hold weight in the justice system, when white people kill a black person, they do petty crimes. They do petty sentences. Look at the Amber Geiger. And this really goes to show you that with this whole Ahmaud Arbery and all these situations that we see on a day-to-day basis here, and it's going to get even way worse. Even though Michael Brown, it reminds me back in 2014 around November, he was right there. Yeah. I mean, he was shoplifting, and it was completely wrong. It was out of his character. But did you have to kill him? Would you fear of your life? Would you do the same thing if one person did the same? Was a Michael Brown. See, these are the things that we have to really answer. Now, RBR did say that he's Rama signed the crime bill law, wherever appointed 61 or 62 federal judges, and they had a 98% conviction rate. But when I still look at this and and analyze the situations here, I mean, even President Obama was in turn from 2008 to 2016, we still falling victim to police brutality, and we need to hold them accountable for this. We really have no type of political agenda, and these are the things that we were suffering from, and it's going to continue to get worse because there's no consequences. And it's only a matter of time. It's like a bully. It's only a matter of time that people's going to get really angry. And like you say, it's escalating here in downtown Minneapolis. A lot of young people are not tolerating about this. Yes, we do have thugs and gangsters in the black community that terrorize their own people. At the same time, here too, this whole division is not going to really make America great again. And this is something that we have to really address. Now, I will say I'm applaud that you have whites, Asians down there. I've never been in Minneapolis. So people who are down there, I think live out K-Sound, live out there, or maybe Wisconsin, I believe. But, even in Minneapolis, man, I believe it's a diverse area. And you got people that's looking, is running down there and standing up. You even got the innocent police officers too. But the sad part is that even it's going to be a point, maybe people's going to get upset and want to just target every police officer regardless of color, because of the system and how it was raised. And it was known for catching slaves back in the 1800s. So I mean, just keeping them in mind and check. And it's restricting freedom. Do we have really just a point in our Constitution? Do we? I mean, we don't understand. So these are the questions that we have to really set our political people uphill right now. We gotta keep them accountable for this if they want to have any type of representation, because if not, this stuff is going to continuously to happen, and it's going to get way worse. It's going to get way worse. And I don't know the state that we're going in right now. Could it be a civil war? Who knows? But I know people are very tired, y'all. The young people are very tired, sick of hearing about this, sick of seeing about this. And on a day-to-day basis, some people say we should get rid of sports and entertainment. I think that has nothing to do with that, but I kind of see why Colin Kaepernick kind of kneeled down for during the media, for the whole national attention, just to raise awareness of this. Because when you pledge to something that has nothing to do for the betterment of your own people and African Americans, right? They're kind of turning a blind eye. And if we can challenge, and we have white friends, we have people from different races and backgrounds, that they can understand and educate themselves that the racism that goes on here in this country. And that's the biggest issue too. So best for us is to unite, have a political agenda. Like I stated it before, it's very unfortunate that George Floyd lost his life. And it was a very disturbing video, just him just pleading for his life, couldn't breathe. I mean, it was hard for me to watch. It was very disturbing. And they get a big settlement, but he has been fired, according to Tim Watts and Jacob Fry, who was the mayor of Minneapolis. And then you have Tim Walz, who's the governor. They doing a thorough investigation with the FBI right now, and they have been terminated. But termination is not enough. We see with Owen Wilson, who killed Michael Brown. He can probably be working for another police department, change his identity. We don't know, and still making money at the end of the day. So we gotta help these people. Got to be held accountable for their crimes at the end of the day, man. So this was specifically a murder. It's not right. And he was, one of his videos kind of went viral. People was picking up what the man actually stood for. He's talking about the lost generation and how the Generation X failed the millennial as far as like just instilling no principles and how to become a man, manhood. He was talking from a African American perspective, which is good. And this is one of the things that I advocate for, like the man crisis. If you check that out with Sean James, he's really discussed like the beta male characteristics and how we got mixed up on the worldly standards and the godly standards of being a man. The godly standards of being a man is being a good steward of his word, just spreading the gospel, providing, protecting, being a husband to your wife, and sending a legacy for your children, regardless of what type of income that you make, but still going out here and taking on the challenges instead of avoiding conflict. I was a beautiful Bible study I was with some brothers in college, man, yesterday. It was just a really great thing. We talked about, running to conflict, solving situations instead of withdrawing and attacking. This is one of the, just things that we have to tackle on as individuals, as a man here in America, even in the world. And this is what, God's standards want us to do. So as Malcolm X said, which I definitely admire, when he said that if a man stands for nothing, he falls for anything. We have to stand up. Protesting is just another foundation, but we really have to really, hold our senators, U.S. House Representatives, the districts accountable for this. And, we really have to push forward, man, to these voting blocks. This, just black women, black men, all this. I mean, people in general, even whites, man, just people who's really on board and wants the system to change, because it only takes us to do it. Just very, very heartening. I know I'm sick of reporting about things about this. I don't know if other people it's probably gonna be other people that's gonna be suffering from this, man, because they could have been me. They could have been anybody at the end of the day, man, for low-level offenses. Why is the police utilizing deadly force on African Americans for low-level offenses? It's ridiculous, man. But this your boy, Young Lee Jr. You guys can like, comment, subscribe. If you guys feel like you need to comment, man, let's have a discussion here. Maybe going on different panels about this. If you want to interview, please let me know at roddy9312@gmail.com. Message me, comment on the video. I'll get back with you. Just shoot your email. As a matter of fact, just shoot your email in the comment section and I'll get back with you, man. I'll see you. We could talk through email or whatever. I see you my Facebook, but I really want other people's opinions on this, man. But this is it's a really sad state where the country is heading, towards equality. This is your boy, Young Lee Jr. I'm out. Deuces.